Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Tuesday to everybody. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. I do these college football videos year-round. I also do some NFL-related content. As a matter of fact, this Thursday night, I will be live on YouTube for the first round of the NFL Draft. So I hope you can all join me for that. It should be a good time. We're not going to talk about any of that today. As you can see from the screen here, we're going to talk about the Clemson Tigers. And we're not going to talk about how great Clemson is or their schedule next year or what I project them to do or how great they've been in the playoff era or any of that. What I'm going to attempt to do is give a little bit of a perspective into the mind of a Clemson fan that's my age. All right? Because I have to continually remind myself that there's always new people coming across the YouTube channel. Let's say, for instance, you just came across my YouTube channel yesterday or last week. The last two videos I uploaded were LSU related. And these people come across it for the first time and they say, who is this arrogant guy? And then they feel a need because they don't like anybody outside of their fan base being critical whatsoever of their program or team or having an opinion on their team. And they feel the need to fire back, which is fine. I get that. That's a human reaction. And they say, oh, who's this guy think he is? Clemson's only been good for a couple years. Their schedule's terrible. They don't have a tradition of winning, blah, blah, blah. All the same stuff over and over again, which most of it comes from a place of ignorance when they say that Clemson just got good. They don't have a tradition of winning. That's couldn't be more false. But there's a certain sector in my age group of the Clemson fan base, and that's really what I'm going to concentrate on here. Because if you're under the age of 25, certainly if you're under the age of 20, then you don't quite fall into this category because you don't really remember the struggle years of the 1990s and early 2000s. Now, as far as the tradition of winning at Clemson, that everyone says there is no tradition of winning at Clemson, let's just look at the numbers here. I didn't write them down. But there's not 10 programs in all of America that have a lifetime achievements that Clemson has as far as winning. All right? Now, people love to base the success of a football program throughout history on how many national titles you have. And that's a good measurement, don't get me wrong. But how much weight are we putting on national titles in the 1940s and 50s and 60s before you were alive? I mean, if you want to put a bunch of weight on that, that's great. I don't, okay? I'm focusing on my lifetime here. But let's look at the overall lifetime record of Clemson since they started playing football in the 1800s. Their all-time record is 744, 459, and 45. That's a 61.4 winning percentage. They are 24-20 in bowls, so that's 44 games with a 55% winning percentage in their bowls. And they also have 24 conference championship titles. 18 of those are ACC titles, and then I guess the other 6 are before the ACC existed. But again, there's not 10 programs in America that can boast those three things. And now, of course, they have 3 national titles. So to say that Clemson doesn't have a tradition of winning throughout history is, again, coming from a place of ignorance, and also the fact that people say that Clemson just got good a couple years ago. Listen, if you judge on they just got good a couple years ago because they're winning national titles, if that's how you judge just got good, fine, whatever. There's plenty of good teams. I dare to say great teams out there that aren't winning national titles. All right, so if that's your standard, then there's really only one good team every single year because there's only one national title to be won every year. But I think if you live through those years like I did, so I'm in the late 30s, and you saw when I was a kid is when they won their first national title with Danny Ford in 1981. And then, of course, we had a string of mediocre coaches, 3 in a row after that, and that was Hatfield, West, and, of course, Tommy Bowden. And if you live through those years where Clemson fans have always felt during that time period that we were being shortchanged, that we were not living up to our potential. We were a sleeping giant. We had everything in place. We had the rabid fan base that showed up every week, even when they were only winning 6 games a year. We have one of the most iconic stadiums in America in Death Valley. We have a great booster, alumni, that supports financially. The only thing we were really lacking was elite leadership, and that's not easy to come by. I mean, if it was easy to come by, then a lot of these major programs that have been sort of not living up to their potential lately. Listen, I could compare Clemson during the 90s and early 2000s to what Michigan's been going through for the past 15 or 20 years. Or maybe Texas, right? Teams that do have everything in place and do have the proud fan base and do have all the pieces in place except for what they needed, and that's an elite coaching staff to lead the team where they need to go. So after the ascension of Clemson really started in around 2010, people only want to remember, let's say, the past 4 years or when Deshaun Watson got there. It happened before that, folks. I'm here to tell you. They've had, 9 straight 10-win seasons now, and during that time, even before Watson got there, they were going to New Year's Six bowl games, beating the likes of Ohio State, LSU, those type of programs at that time. And they say the same tired thing now that they were saying back in 2010. So when we had Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins and even some elite players on the defense like Vic Beasley and Grady Jarrett and those guys, all NFL players with the exception of Taj Boyd right now, they said, oh, they're all leaving it. You guys are going to go back to being mediocre. You guys, you got lucky to get those guys there, and you're going to go away. Well, then, of course, that didn't happen. Deshaun Watson and a whole nother crop of elite players come in there on both sides of the football, and they continue to win, and not just continue to win, continue to ascend and get better and rise it from a top 15 program, which is what they pretty much were, top 10 to 15 program when the Taj Boyd years, to a top 5 program the whole time that Deshaun Watson was there. And then after Deshaun Watson leaves, even after he goes to 2 national titles and wins one, the same thing, people coming around saying, oh, Deshaun Watson's gone, and and Mike Williams is gone, and Deion Kane's gone, and all these guys, you're going to go back to being mediocre again like you were in the 90s and early 2000s. And they're already doing it again. Clemson's not going to be any good next year, or they're not going to compete for a national title or beat Alabama or whoever they play in the playoffs because, number one, they have a crappy schedule, and number two, they're losing their entire defensive line. I don't know exactly how long you have to continue winning, and not only winning but getting better, before you start realizing that losing elite players every year does not mean that your program goes into the toilet. I mean, I don't understand what the mentality of this. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. So anyway, the reason that you feel, if you're one of these people that feels this way, as a matter of fact, if I polled you right now, all the viewers that aren't Clemson fans, and I said, how many of you think that Clemson fans are big-headed right now and boasting too much and being arrogant? I bet, I can't see through the computer, but I bet probably more than half of you are raising your hand right now and saying that, yes, you feel that way. Well, I'm here to explain why. And the reason why is, if you're my age, when you live through 20-something years of mediocrity and you're a hardcore fan, and then you finally reach the potential that you feel like you should have had this whole time, then yes, you're going to brag about it. Or at least I am. I know a lot of Clemson fans don't like the bragging aspect of sports. They feel like this is one thing they tell me all the time. This makes me laugh. That's not the Clemson way. Be humble. Look, I don't play for Clemson. I'm not hired by Clemson. Clemson's not paying me. I don't represent Clemson. I don't represent the football team. I don't represent the fan base. I represent me. And for all I know, and for all anybody knows, 5 or 10 years from now, Clemson could be back into another lull of being an average team. Nothing lasts forever. Now, is it possible that Dabo's still there 10 years from now and there's still an elite program? Yes. It's also possible that he's not, for whatever reason. And so why would I not enjoy the time that I've been waiting for virtually my entire life as a fan? If you don't enjoy that, if you want to sit quietly and just be humble, go for it. Go for it. Have fun with that. I hope it makes you happy. Now, do I expect the players and the coaches to be humble about it? Yes, I do. But the fans? Why should they be humble about winning? Why? Especially since you've been crapped on and disrespected, not only for the past 30 years, but even during this run. They call it bragging rights for a reason, because you have the right to brag. So that's where Clemson fans, where I think the majority of the Clemson fans, especially in my age group, are coming from. So you may call it arrogance. You may call it having a big head. I call it salvation for 30 years of suffering. I also call it being real and knowing that it won't last forever. So it is what it is. Now that I've alienated a sector of the Clemson fan base and everybody who's not a Clemson fan, I feel like I've done my duty today here. And I hope you understand. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't understand, you don't really care. I don't really care. Have a great day, though. Pigskin Pete checking out.